In the summer of 1973, a team of recent college graduates, led by the director and producing team of Tobe Hooper and Henkel, headed out to rural Texas to shoot a horror picture, then titled Leatherface. Hooper and Henkel had made the low-budget avant-garde flick Eggshells after graduating from the University of Texas film program, and that festival favorite had earned Hooper the title of an up-and-coming talent in Austin, Texas. Realizing that art movies weren't going to get them a career in Hollywood, Hooper and Henkel set out to write a genre movie that would hopefully be more mainstream and saleable in the independent film markets. What they didn't realize at the time is that they were making a horror movie that would go on to be not only well received, but become a byword amongst horror fans and become one of the most influential horror films of the century. So oil up your power tools and keep the exits in mind as we take a look at the impact and legacy of Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. A lot of what occurred on the sweaty, hot summer shoot of Chainsaw Massacre has now gone down in legend. On the low budget of $125,000, there wasn't a lot of time for the niceties of big-budget movie making.
Yeah, no, everyone hated me on that film. I mean, they ended up really hating me and one another. It was a real challenge, and there's a lot of work.
Legend has it that for 27 hours the crew shot the now legendary dinner scene in the film under excruciating heat, causing the set decorations and bones of animal carcasses and real meat to begin to decompose and cook under the lights of the set.
The last day's shoot was like 27 hours. I was using technicians that just graduated from film school. When I felt necessary, I would dive into everyone's job because I couldn't allow for take two.
As you can imagine, the crew began to get real sick as the smells of sweat and the unwashed costumes, meat, and real animal props mixed with the sweltering summer heat, making for a nauseating experience for the filmmakers.
Yeah. But I thought we were sticking our heads out the window throwing up, or maybe it was just me.
They'd say, take a break, everyone go outside, and Dr. Barnes was giving everybody some sort of nausea.
Yeah, I remember there was like Dramamine or something like that.
Well, the legends continue as actor, novelist, and poet Gunnar Hansen, in his first acting role as Leatherface, began to lose it under the heat of his masked costume and actually cut the finger of actress Marilyn Burns for real in order to get the shot done in the harrowing hammer scene. This perhaps helps to explain why Hansen's role is so remembered, as he went more than a little crazy in his portrayal of the now iconic Leatherface.
We shot this over and over again because the tube kept clogging, and we couldn't get the blood out of the tube onto the knife edge. And so after the fourth or fifth take, they just cut her. And the reason was, at this point, we were insane. And
pretty gruesome. All of these on-set pressures and conditions, I feel, are part of what add to the unrelenting horror and queasiness of the film that makes for a movie that never lets its audience free for a moment of rest.
I thought you was in a hurry.
Just like the film's main protagonist, Sally, played excellently by actress Marilyn Burns, who is reported by many film scholars as being the original final girl in horror, the audience is subjected to a journey of almost constant, absolute madness and terror. In its perfectly short 80 minutes, Chainsaw Massacre feels like a constant barrage on the senses. The BBFC originally refused the film a certificate, with its then head James Furman saying that the film relied on the pornography of fear. Upon revision, the BBFC could not find any violence to cut from the film due to its surprising lack of blood and gore. Hooper had originally imagined to receive a PG rating through conversations he had had with American censors prior to shooting, designing the film to be a work of imagined terror.
I'd been talking to the MPAA, asking them theoretic questions like, how do I get a G rating and hang a girl on a meat hook? And then finally we said, well, if you think this is what you see, can you get away with that?
And to his honour, Hooper succeeded in his goal. The BBFC website quotes that it was noted at the time that the film relied for its effect upon creating an atmosphere of madness, threat, and impending violence, while shying away from showing much in the way of explicit detail. This made it almost impossible for the film to be cut, and even after revisions, the BBFC concluded that it did nothing to alter the disturbing tone of the film. Although this can be looked at as a damning indictment of film censorship and their attempts to control what the public can see no matter what, it is also a testament to how excellent Hooper's direction is, and that through editing techniques and the expert use of sound that they learned in film school, the filmmakers implied violence and threat by allowing the audience to use their own imaginations. Like it or hate it, this is what makes the Texas Chainsaw Massacre an expert exercise in low-budget filmmaking. Through an understanding of the art and technical expertise of filmmaking and design, Hooper and his team created a masterpiece of audience participation. To me, this is the true power of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and why it is a film that helped to redefine the horror genre.
And that film hasn't been matched. I remember Ridley Scott saying that he looked at it when he was making Alien, William Friedkin famously saying it was the most terrifying film ever made.
Yeah, well, everybody I ever talked to, I mean, what's the films I always mention? It's always The Exorcist, it's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it's usually Psycho. And I got really clammy and sweaty, and it's a very, very rare occurrence to do that in these movies. That's why it was so influential. And
one of the most profound things to me in the study of film is to look at the filmmaker's intentions and what were the personal messages in the subtext implanted by the filmmakers. Now, Chainsaw Massacre to me is a perfect horror film, one that allows me in to imagine and be part of the terror. But looking at the film in the context of when it was made and listening to Hooper in commentary of the film, it is clear that the film goes beyond that of simply scaring the heck out of an audience, which it does very well. The film was made in the summer of 1973, a time of unrest in the political state of America and indeed the world. Nixon was being scrutinized by the people for betraying the trust of his country, and America's involvement in the war in Vietnam was being reflected in the films that were being made at the time, such as Sean Cunningham and Wes Craven's film Last House on the Left, which was a reflection of the violence that Craven said he witnessed in the day-to-day newsreels on television. Hooper's statement is that Chainsaw can be seen as a commentary on capitalism and how the workers from the slaughterhouse could represent the American workforce from any industry, such as the steel mills, and how they were being left out to rot as the industry became more and more privatized for profit and gave birth to a new underclass.
Yeah, right. There's a little moment about capitalism, and I mean, this film kind of came out of the Watergate times and was kind of inspired by it in a lot of ways.
So you mean this film is really not about the breakdown of the American family?
Listen, that family sticks together, man.
The family in Chainsaw are practicing cannibalistic capitalism in order to make money the only way they know how. But it's also a twisted way of exacting revenge on the new political world closing in on their way of life. In essence, turning the destroyer's own capitalistic views on business against them. The flesh of the invaders has become the new commodity out of necessity for the family to survive. This can be considered an injection of dark humor into the film, which Hooper has said on many times was lost on the audience at first due to the terror that they initially felt about Chainsaw. Hooper describes the scene when the cook is upset about the way Leatherface has destroyed the front door to the family home as case in point.
And he sees that Leatherface has cut the front door apart. His reaction is a real reaction. It's like, look what your brother's done to the door. But in context with the horror that you've seen, it is totally insane.
You damn fool! You ruined the door!
This humor would be played out more overtly in the sequel, Chainsaw Massacre Part 2, Hooper stating that he intentionally made the sequel more slapstick for audiences to see the dark humor that he had initially intended.
what you did to my Sonny Bono wig duo. Non-flashback. Non-flashback. Oh.
The theatricality of Chainsaw 2 and its dark humour would become a mainstay of Hooper's work throughout the rest of his career. And for me, it's a career that was filled with expert direction and beautiful lighting.
Because you're one of us.
Tobe Hooper's name will forever be synonymous with the horror genre because of the impact that Chainsaw had on 70s cinema and the shape of horror movies to come. The independent filmmaking legend and fellow master of horror, John Carpenter, said on Chainsaw, "The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is an incredible movie. It's one of the scariest movies ever. The whole idea is scary. You don't see anything, it's not explicit, but it's what's going on in your head that's scary. It's also a very funny film. It's almost a comedy. I really loved that movie. I loved it." The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a film that terrified audiences in the early 70s and continues to be rediscovered by new audiences because it is a film that was made out of the sheer hunger to be a filmmaker on Hooper's part. And that passion is infectious. It's a film that works as a good old-fashioned scarefest that created an iconic horror villain and franchise, but it also has a subtext about capitalism gone insane.
Yeah, you want to get some barbecue?
It's a perfect mixture of technical expertise and bold filmmaking that has something to say, that makes the film stand the test of time and continues to be reviewed and studied by fans, academics and critics the world over. On a personal note, for this film fan, it's not the horror that keeps me coming back, it is the atmosphere. Chainsaw grabs me by the throat and propels me into an attack of unrelenting unease that for me does what all good films do best. It lets the audience participate in terrifying themselves by using their own imagination. And what more can a film fan ask for? Thanks for watching this look at Tobe Hooper's seminal horror film, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. If you would like to see more works like this on the work of Hooper and other filmmakers, please remember to like and subscribe. We also have the Super Thanks option if you would like to support the channel, and that can be found in the options below the video. Let me know your thoughts on the film in the comments below, and as always, thanks so much for listening.